Hi guys, this is Skaggs and welcome to the channel. Now this project this week is a very special project because one of our awesome family members, she says she loves peacocks and she wanted me to come up with a peacock project, and this is what I came up with. Now this mirror on the side, it would be linked in the description down below and at the end of this video. Now I also did this peacock on the side as well, and if you guys want to see this one as well, then leave it in the comment section down below and I will do a video on that as well. Now once you have the pattern, you could finish it in a bunch of different ways. Now for this one I used the plain fuzzy sticks and the glitter fuzzy sticks, and it gave a completely different look. Now a full list of all the materials needed for this project would be found in the description down below. Now let's get started. Now to get started, you'll purchase the pattern absolutely free for the first 48 hours. And the link for the pattern is in the description down below. Now we'll cut the pieces apart and I'll show you how we put it together. Now we'll cut the head right here and we'll stick it to this part of the neck. Now we'll cut right here and we'll stick it to this part of the body. Now the tails have corresponding numbers, so we'll cut off the excess paper and we'll stick it to the corresponding numbers. Now some of the tails have two pieces, so first we'll cut out the pieces, we'll stick the two pieces together, and then we'll cut out the excess paper and then we'll stick the corresponding pieces together. Now we'll continue this same process until we're finished gluing on all the tail pieces. Now if this is your first time here, consider subscribing because the patterns would be free and absolutely free for the first 48 hours. So if you're subscribed with your notifications turned on, it would always be free. And I am doing it this way because of my wonderful subscribers. I want to make sure that you all have what you need to do the projects without having to pay any extra money. So if you guys want to have the patterns completely free, then subscribe and have your notifications turned on so that you could be alerted before the first 48 hours. Now number 1 and 6 is one complete pattern, so all you have to do is cut it out and stick them to the tail. Now once we are finished putting the piece together, we'll take this foam board and place our pattern onto the foam board. Now once we arrange our pattern onto the foam board, the bottom part would be like this and the top part would be hanging off. Now we'll pin our pattern into place. Then we'll cut off the top part here and we'll stick it on the empty part of the foam board. Once we're finished, I'm using this hot knife to trace around the edges and to cut the design onto the foam board. Now if you don't have a hot knife, you could use an X-Acto knife, but this just makes it much easier to cut the pattern onto the foam board. Once we're done cutting the pieces, I took the hot knife, the barrel here, and I used it to clean up the edges of our peacock. Now to attach the pieces, I cut a piece of foam board and I used that to glue the pieces together. Now I'm using a little bit of glue from the glue gun just to fill in the space so that we have a nice seamless piece. Now I'm using the hot knife to create texture, so I'm pushing into the foam board and pulling out in a downward position to create feather-like strokes. Now I'm doing longer feather-like strokes towards the bottom part of the peacock, and towards the head we're going to be doing shorter feather-like strokes, and this would give us an awesome feather-like design for our peacock. Now we'll be using our hot knife and creating the beak for our peacock. Now we'll finish putting in the texture for the face of the peacock. Now I went into the longer strokes and added some smaller strokes just to give it some added dimension. Now I left the ends of the tails without adding any smaller strokes so that it would actually have a difference. Now this part I left it clear because we frankly do not need any texture here because we'll be covering up this with the wings. Now I decided to take off the foam board that I glued on earlier and use popsicle sticks and skewers instead. Now you want to use the popsicle sticks in the thicker areas and the skewers in the thinner areas. And you want to cover the entire back with the skewers and the popsicle sticks. Now this is a photo of how the entire back look with the skewers and the popsicle sticks. Once I was done, I spray painted the Peacock black. Then I sprayed some of this Rust-Oleum metallic spray paint into this container. Now I took one of the foam brushes and I lightly dust over the top of the Peacock to expose the texture. Now we're going to be using this glue that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. Now we're also going to be using this chunky glitter and this fine glitter that I picked up from Walmart. Now we're going to mix the two together and we're going to brush it on to the Peacock using our foam brush. Now once we're done adding our glitter, we'll take our wing pattern and we'll cut out our wing. Now we'll take a piece of foam board, we'll place our wing and we'll draw out our wing onto our foam board. Now I'm using a scissors to cut out our wing from our foam board. Now we'll take some glue and put it onto the cardboard. We'll take a grocery bag and stick it onto the glue. This will just give our wing a 3D look. Now we'll take a piece of aluminum foil and we'll press it together to create some wrinkles, and we'll use this to wrap our peacock wings. Now we'll cut off the excess foil and we'll glue the foil to the back of the cardboard. Now I thought that the wing was still a little too flat, so I took another grocery bag, I cut it in half and stuck it in between so that it would be a little bit fuller. Now I continued gluing the aluminum foil onto the foam board. Now once you're happy with the thickness, we're going to be taking these spoons that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. And we're going to be using the head part of the spoons and we're going to be gluing it onto the wings. Now we're going to be using the bottom part of the spoon and we'll be gluing those onto the tail part of the peacock. Now this is how we'll be gluing the spoon onto the wing. And we'll be doing this until the entire wing is filled up. Now we'll stick the wing onto the peacock. Now we'll be using the ends of the spoon and we'll be sticking them down to the tail part of the peacock. Now here's the point where we'll be placing the glue. Now for the ends of the tail, we'll be cutting down the spoons so that they would be able to go around the curve. Now I decided to glue these gems onto all of the ends onto all of the spoons. Now we are going to take our eye pattern and we'll cut out the eyes. Now we'll glue our eyes in place. Now we're going to take E6000 and we're going to put it over the eyes so that we'll seal the eyes and also give it a glass-like look. Now if there's any bubble that get caught, we could take a pin and remove the bubble so that we have a nice clear looking eye. Now to hang it on the wall, I used command strips and double-sided tape. Now I used the double-sided tape on all the tail pieces. Now I really love the way that this peacock design came out, and I'd like to hear back from you guys if this is something that you like and if it's something that you'd like to try out. Now the peacock on the side, guys, if you want to see this peacock, then leave it in the comment section down below and I would do a video on this as well. Or if you guys would like to see how I made this beautiful flower design, then you could leave a comment in the section down below and I could do a video on this as well. Now guys, you know I love hearing back from you all. Now all my contact information is in the description down below, and I'd love to see your guys' projects after you guys is finished with them. Now these are the pictures of this week that I got back, and look how stunning all of the different projects that she made came out, guys. I really get inspired when I see pictures like these. They came out so beautiful. You guys could customize them to anything that you choose. Now if you guys want me to see what you guys create, send me the pictures and I would definitely post them. Thanks for taking the time out to watch the video. You have a blessed and awesome day. Now if you like this video, you may also like these as well. And don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. See you in the next one.